Right, so I'm having a bit of a break from hiking this weekend, although it's absolutely glorious out here, so it would have been great to have been out, but for various reasons I can't. But I thought it would be a great opportunity to do a little comparison video between two lightweight backpacks. And the two backpacks that I'm going to compare are the Atom Packs Mo EP50 and the Durston Kakwa 40. And you might think, well, is it fair comparing these two backpacks because they do have different volumes? But I think it is in terms of the features. And also, in my experience, there isn't much in it in terms of what you can fit in either of these packs. You can definitely fit slightly more in the Atom Packs Mo, but there's not a huge amount in it, believe you me. So the idea for the review is that I'm going to look at the features of each of these packs, and then at the end I'll do a kind of a pros and cons, what I like about both of these packs and what I don't like about both of these packs. And I'm also going to load both of the packs up as well with gear. First of all, I'm going to do that with the Mo, so you can see what fits inside here, and then I'm going to do exactly the same gear into the Kakwa, so you can get a good idea of how they compare. So hopefully you can see both of the front of these packs quite well. So let's start with the front. Both packs have this front pocket here. On the Kakwa you have this mesh pocket, which isn't very stretchy but is really, really tough. So you can see if I'm pulling on that, it's really tough mesh material, which is great, but there isn't a lot of stretch. On the Mo, you've got this Dyneema stretch pocket here, and that does have a lot of stretch to it, which is great. The Mo also has this compression system on the front of the pack, so you can use that to compress the pack down, but also lash additional items to the front of this pack. So great if you've got some wet gear that you need drying out, you can just throw that on the front of the pack, so that's really handy. Obviously you don't have that with the Kakwa. So coming to the sides of the pack, you have this rather large pocket on the Atom Pack here, and the methods they've gone for here are quite different. So the Atom Pack doesn't have much of a diagonal cut on it, and it's quite a large pocket in itself, whereas the Kakwa starts quite high and finishes quite low, and it has a bit more of a stretch on it. However, I think you can fit more into the Atom Pack as opposed to the Kakwa, so these pockets are slightly bigger. And there are pros and cons to the way that they've cut these. This one starting high and finishing low, and this one being a bit straighter. But I will come to that a little bit later. On the Mo, you've got this compression system going down the side, which is great for compressing the sides of the pack, but again, you can lash additional gear here. You've only got one compression strap on the Kakwa, and that's near the top of the pack. And again, that can compress the pack down, and you can lash an additional item here, or it can hold something that's standing up tall in either sides of the pockets. It can hold that in place. On the other side, you've got exactly the same on the Atom Pack. It's exactly the same layout. On the Kakwa, it's slightly different. So you've got this taller pocket, and you can see it's kind of about the same size in terms of height as the one on the Mo, apart from it goes across horizontally as opposed to going down at a slight angle. And this is meant for you to be able to put larger items here, so you can put a tent in there and stand that up, or tent poles or trekking poles or whatever. And they've also put this pocket here, which I think has caused a bit of debate as to how useful this pocket is. I think personally, for me, I would use it either or thing. So I think if you want to keep quite a lot stored away, safely away, in a pocket, then you can use this and stuff this as much as you want in here. But that means that there's not a lot of room then to put on the outside of the pocket, which is fine. Or you can just put a few items in here, maybe your credit card, some keys, a map, some paperwork, something like that, and then that will leave you a lot more room to put bulkier items in the side pocket here. So it's not a case of you can fill that and then you can fill that, and you know, if you fill that, then you're not going to have much here to use, and vice versa. I just think it's a nice option to have both. So coming to the backs of the pack, both have obviously got hip belts on them. The difference between the hip belts are that the Mo comes with a detachable hip belt, so you can swap these out here. You've got this lumbar pad here. On the Kakwa there is no lumbar pad, and it is sewn in, so you can't take the hip belt off at all. And then there is also a bit of a difference in terms of the padding as well. So on the Atom Pack you've got this foam here to add some padding to it, and it's quite hard foam, whereas on the Kakwa there's a lot less in terms of foam here, and that helps it really wrap around your waist. Again, I think probably pros and cons to each of those, and some of it comes down to preference as well. In terms of the way that the hip belt works, on the Kakwa you've got this two-way strapping system here, if that's what you call it, and then you've just got this one strap here to pull that on both sides. On the Atom Pack, so it differs a little bit, as in you've actually got two connection points, and you would independently tighten both of those, and that's to try and allow it to really form around your hip. I don't really have a preference as to which I prefer of those two, but you know, again, both seem to work fine to me. The Atom Pack as standard doesn't come with hip belt pockets, so these are detachable, whereas the Kakwa has sewn in hip belt pockets. So you can see on the Kakwa that's kind of the volume you get there. It's definitely less than what you get on the Atom Packs. These pockets are really good, and they're quite big and spacious. So coming to the shoulder straps, they actually both look quite similar in terms of the features that are on them. Again, there is definitely more padding on the Atom Pack as opposed to the Kakwa. This has got a lot less padding on it. I don't find that a problem at all. I don't find either or makes much difference to me. I think the Kakwa is perfectly comfortable, and I think that the Atom Pack, in terms of the amount of padding, is comfortable as well. You have these two front pockets here, which look very, very similar, and they certainly are. So I would use these for putting water bottles in. One thing I will note about the Kakwa one is it does taper off a little bit more at the bottom, and that might be because you can see that it actually comes down a little bit lower compared to the Atom Pack. And I do find that if you've got kind of like an empty plastic water bottle, or there's not much in it, it does tend to ride up a little bit. You don't get that problem with the Atom Pack. So that's just a slight niggle for me, not a massive issue. On the Kakwa, you've got this pull cord here, so you can tighten that down if you've got something other than a water bottle in there that you want to keep in tight. You don't have that feature with the Mo. At the top, you've got two handles here, which is what you absolutely should use for when you're picking the backpack up. Don't pick it up with any of the other straps, because they will probably break, and I have had that happen to me as well. Both packs come with load lifters, and yeah, not much to say here. Similar mechanism, they work absolutely fine. So coming to the tops of the packs, again, they are very, very similar. There's not really much to show in terms of the difference between these two packs. So they're both top loading. So this is the Mo. And this is the Kakwa. On both of these you can just roll the tops down and then clip that together. There is a difference which I will show you on the Atom Pack. So with the Atom Pack you have the addition of these two clips here. You can clip the top of the pack together and then roll it down in the same way. Now this is where you have another difference, is that you can either go up and over, dry bag style, or you can. There is an additional compression strap down here, so you can connect that and then cinch it down that way. Personal preference. Personally, I prefer going up and over. I just find it easier, but that does mean I do have these dangling, not doing a lot. So inside the packs, this is the Atom Pack the Mo. There's no internal pocket at all. You do have this clip inside the Atom Pack, which I use for putting my keys on, which I find very, very useful. I believe that can also be used to attach a reservoir to as well. And then you also have the facility to take out the back panel and the internal stay on it as well. So the Atom Pack has just one frame, one stay, and it goes straight down the middle, and then you have a plastic panel here and then some foam also, so the foam to keep it comfortable, and the stay goes straight down the centre here and connects to the hip out at the bottom, and that's to transfer the loads to the bottom of the pack. On the Kakwa there is absolutely nothing on the inside. There's no internal keyring or anything like that, and there's no place to put a bladder. And similar, got a bit of Velcro here which you can open up, and then you can take the frame out of the pack. Now this is where the frame differs with the Kakwa. So the aluminium frame with the Kakwa goes all the way along here and then down the sides of the pack. So it is a U-shaped frame, a U-shaped aluminium frame. So that is a different method than the Atom Pack, which is just one metal stay or aluminium stay that runs down the centre of the pack, and then a plastic sheet to give it its rigidity. I will come to this in the pros and cons, but I do think that the aluminium stay in this works a little better for my liking. And the bottom of the pack on the Atom Pack at the moment, you've got this bottom pocket. Some people find that useful, some people don't. I think it's great. You can stuff loads of snacks in there and bits and bobs. And you also have this little pocket here then that you can put your rubbish in when you're done with it. The bottom of the Kakwa is just the bottom, and there's nothing else on it. And then also at the top you have this Y compression strap at the top, which is great. I love the Y compression straps. I think they're really useful for attaching stuff to the top of the pack. I think that works really well, and it's pretty much identical on the Kakwa. You've got your Y strap that just connects, and both work as well as each other. Okay, so before I load these packs up, let's just have a look at the pros and cons of the features for me. I won't spend a lot of time talking about it, but let's just go through them quickly. So the front of the pack, I do prefer the stretchy Dyneema Stretch front pocket. I think it can fit a lot more in than you can on the Kakwa. I can understand why Dan decided to go for this tough mesh pocket, and I think it will be more resistant than the Dyneema Stretch. Not that I haven't had any problems with the Dyneema Stretch itself, but you feel that it probably is a little bit more hard wearing. But also this pocket does come up higher as well, so you do have more height in it, and it does have more volume, that's for sure. However, I do know on the new Kakwa 55 that they have put a bigger front pocket, and I think it does come up higher as well, and it may give you a bit more volume. So they have looked at correcting that, because I know that was a bit of a common complaint with the Kakwa. Side pockets. So which do I prefer? I don't mind either. I quite like having this high pocket here on the Kakwa on one side, but I think overall I do prefer the Atom Pack pockets. I think they work quite well, and I'm not a big fan of the pockets when they come down really low, because I have found that if I've got a water bottle in here, it can kind of like flop over to one side, to the side where it cuts quite low. I think that's a personal preference thing, but yeah, I do prefer the pockets on the Atom Pack, but and they are slightly bigger. But again, it's just a personal preference thing. I also like on the front of the Atom Pack having this lashing on the outside. I do find that quite useful, and I use it quite a lot for lashing things to the outside, especially if I'm on a multi-day hike. Again, you don't have that with the Kakwa. And like on the side, I think the compression strap, I think this is one of my bigger gripes about the Kakwa. And they haven't done anything with it on the 55, so maybe it's not something that Dan thinks is an issue. But for me, and I will show you this in a demonstration later, because this is quite high and it goes quite high on the pack, I do find if I've got something in here, say trekking poles or tent poles, because of the way it diagonally cuts off, they do tend to flop out. They do tend to go to one side. I don't have that problem here because you've got this zigzag compression strap, which just to me it just works better and keeps things nicely in place. So I do prefer that system. I've already mentioned about the pockets here, and I think the Atom Pack is slightly better, but I mean it's not. That's not a deal breaker for me. There's not much in it, but I think personally, if that was just a little bit wider at the bottom and it doesn't make the bottles kind of ride up, I think that would be better. The Atom Pack doesn't have a lot of attachment points on the shoulder straps, whereas you do have quite a few on the Kakwa, and that is quite useful because sometimes I like to lash things like my Garmin InReach on, and whilst you do have probably one, you can put the Garmin InReach here, it would be nice if there was a few more attachment points somewhere on the Atom Pack. I've touched on the frame. I think that the frame system works better on the Kakwa. I find it does carry loads slightly better. That's my personal opinion. People do find that the Atom Pack is very comfortable. I find it very comfortable, but I find it very comfortable at lower volumes. I can carry slightly heavier volumes from this and feel a little bit more comfortable, and I think that might be down to the aluminium frame that is in this pack. Side pockets. Like I said, you don't get side pockets with the Atom Pack. You do have to order them separately. These are detachable, and I think partly because they're detachable, they are better. They are just better. And this is another big gripe I've got with the Kakwa. If you are putting something inside of here that is quite bulky, so say for example a set of batteries for your camera or something, it's fine. You don't notice them. It swallows it up. It's not a problem. I do find if you do the same with the Kakwa, because this is attached and it's sewn in, and you wrap it around your hip, it does dig in. I do find it digs in and can be quite uncomfortable, so it kind of limits what I can put in here. And also if you put in like a snack bar, it does tend to warp the shape of the snack bar. Again, not a massive issue, but you don't get that problem with the Kakwa. I think because it's detached and it does kind of float a little bit because it's got attachment points to it, as opposed to just being sewn in and wrapping around your hip. So that is one of my biggest gripes about the Kakwa, is these hip belt pockets. I wish they were a little bit bigger, or I wish they had a similar attaching mechanism to the Atom Pack where they maybe floated a bit more. Yeah. And one other small point. It's not a deal breaker. It's not a deal breaker, but I do like having a keyring holder or attachment in my backpack. I find it very useful because the last thing when you're out hiking on a multi-day hike, you've got your car keys or your house keys or whatever, and you you put them into a pocket, and if they're not secured somewhere, you don't want them falling out and getting lost. Whereas at least if they're attached inside the backpack, you don't have that problem. So you do have that inside of here. You've got that little keyring holder inside the atom pack. There's nothing inside the Kakwa, and I think the perfect place for it would be this little side pocket here. If Dan could put a little keyring holder inside of here, I think it would make a world of difference. I really, really do. So yeah, those are the pros and cons of the packs for me. Tom versus Dan. I think they've both done an amazing job. They really, really have. They're both great backpacks. In terms of features, for me, I think the Atom Pack wins it. But I do find that this carries a little bit better than the Atom Pack. So it's a really close call. Right, I'm going to quickly get the Atom Pack loaded so you can see what goes inside of it, and then I'm going to unload it and then pop it into here, and then you can see what fits in both. Right, so this is the gear that I'm going to load into the backpacks. This is kind of like a typical kind of loadout, I would say, for autumn, spring conditions. So I'm not going to go through each of the items, but basically we have a sleeping bag, well, actually a quilt. We've got a tent, which is the Durston Mid 2, sleeping pad, cook kit, clothes, food, accessories. I'm going to show you a tent pole scenario as well. So let's get everything loaded in. Right, so that's everything that's going to go inside the pack. So we've still got a little bit of space to play with at the top here, which is fine. Right, there you go. That's everything loaded up on the inside of the pack. I'm going to put this in the front mesh pocket. I want my trekking poles on the outside of the bag. So simply do that like so, and you can see that they're nicely attached with these compression straps there. I've got my Sawyer squeeze and water bag, and then this is my fuel, my X-Boil on the other side. I'm going to put my sit pad there. Nalgene bottle. I don't normally take a Nalgene bottle out with me, but this is just for comparison reasons. So pop that in. And if you really wanted to, you can hold that in by just popping a compression strap over, or even this compression strap can go over it like so, which is quite handy. And then I've got some gloves and a cap, and I'm going to put those in the hip belt pocket. Like so. And then this is just extra batteries for my camera, so I'm going to pop that in the other hip belt pocket, like so. And then on the shoulder straps, I'm going to pop my water bottle. and my phone's going to go in the other one. Like so. And that is it. That is everything loaded in to the Atom Pack, the Mo EP50. Goes in really well. Still got a bit of space to spare at the top. I haven't put these in. These are tent poles. But just for a comparison, so you could pop some tent poles there, and that fits in quite nicely, and then you've got your compression system down here to hold them in place nicely. So everything is held in place really well. Right, let's do exactly the same. Take everything out of here and put everything in the Kakwa and see how it fits. Right, let's get loading. Right, so everything loaded into the Kakwa, and a similar thing really. Didn't have a problem getting anything in. We've still got room at the top, I would say similar. There we go, brilliant. So let's get the pockets loaded now. So again, same place, this goes in to the front, and you can see that's pretty much taken up all of the pocket space, whereas there was plenty left on the Atom Pack. So side pocket, this is where you would keep your water bottle. So my Nalgene in here, which actually works quite well. You can see if I do that, it does flop over. But isn't actually too much of an issue, to be fair. But there's nothing else really that's going in there, maybe apart from get my soya squeeze in there, maybe my water bag if I'm lucky. Yeah, get my water bag in there, so I've just got to pack it slightly differently. So down here we will have my trekking poles. And you see, this is where I have a problem with this compression strap. You see, it just doesn't reach the top, so I'd have to bring that up to put the compression strap around it, so it's not right to the bottom. But the problem with that is it just ends up sliding back down, and that's okay because you've got these handles for it to kind of latch onto. But we'll come back to that in a minute. And bottle there, and then the mat is there. It has to kind of go diagonally, and it's just not quite as secure. The bottle, phone, and that's where they come in. That's where these come in quite nice because it fastens the phone in quite nicely there, which is good. And then I'm going to put gloves and cap in here. And then that is going to go into there. And you can see what I mean by that kind of flopping over. It just... this whole system down the side just for me just doesn't work quite as well. And if I wanted to put these somewhere, I can't. I'm out of options really. So in terms of the external volume, it's definitely not as good. I mean, I might be able to fit them down here, but oh yeah, I can. So I can fit them there, look. And that's okay whilst they're in there. But if I take these out and have them there, and then say that there, I have this problem here. Just, yeah, it ends up coming off after you're hiking for a bit and just ends up flopping. It's just, I could just do with something here, or if that came straight across here, that wouldn't be a problem. Right, so let's do a bit of a comparison in terms of the pricing between the Durston Kakwa 40 and the Mo EP50. Obviously, if you're in the UK, you're going to have to import the Durston Kakwa in. The Atom Packs, the Mo is made in the UK, in Keswick, so postage costs aren't that high. But yes, if you're importing this, then you're going to have to pay postage and import fees as well. So let's just have a look at some of the comparative costs. So the Kakwa costs in UK sterling, it costs £200 as is, okay? And it's about £30 to ship it into the UK. And then of course you've then got the import duty to pay on top of that. So all in all, it comes to about £280. The Atom Packs, the Mo EP50, as is, without the two hip belts, costs £265. So that's £265 versus the £280 that you would pay for the Kakwa. However, if the hip belt pockets are something that's important to you, and probably are for quite a lot of people, then you are going to have to pay extra for that, and that will bring it up to £305. And you do have £8 also postage on top of that as well. So all in all, two hip belt pockets, the Mo is going to set you back about £305. And that is versus the Kakwa, which will cost you £280. So there is a bit of a price difference, although it's not huge. Obviously, if you're in the US or Canada, you're going to have to reverse those fees, and it's going to cost you a lot more to get the Atom Pack in the US than it is getting the Kakwa in the UK. So there is a bit of a cost difference there to think about, depending on which continent you are on. And also with the Atom Packs, you can also get custom-made backpacks. So you can choose all of the colours and bits and bobs that go on and around it, and also the torso length, but that costs even more money. But they do release the off-the-shelf version, which is the one that I've been reviewing today. So I think it's fair to review the off-the-shelf version versus the Kakwa rather than a custom one. I think that would be fair. In terms of the volumes of the two backpacks, now the Kakwa is classed as a 40 litre, whereas the Mo is classed as a 50 litre. However, the internal volume of the Kakwa is actually 41 litres, I believe, if it's the medium size, and the Mo is actually 45 litres, and then the other 5 litres is in the two side pockets. So there is a difference in how they calculate the volumes of the two bags, which unfortunately isn't standard among the industry, which can be quite annoying, because it is annoying to know, well, where is the 50, the 40 litres, etc. In the Kakwa, it's all inside the bag, whereas in the Atom Packs, the Mo, 45 of that 50 is inside and then 5 outside. However, you do also get that front stretch pocket, which I believe is another 5 litres. You've got the bottom pocket as well, so that's worth bearing in mind. And if you get the two hip belt pockets, there's a little bit extra there as well. Okay, well, I hope you found the comparison of the Durston Kakwa and the Mo EP50 helpful. I think these are both fantastic backpacks. They really are. I've been a bit critical in places on both of them, but they are expensive pieces of gear. So I think it is right that we should suggest things that we think aren't quite right or things that we would like changed. Obviously, all of these are my own personal opinions. Other people have other preferences and other opinions, so that is absolutely fine. But yeah, if you do have experience with either of these backpacks or both of them, yeah, please leave some comments below. Let me know what you think of them. Which one do you prefer? What are the pros and cons? So thanks so much for watching, and until the next time, stay safe, keep trekking, and I'll see you soon.